Okay, tight hip flexors. So you've got tight hips. They're causing you pain. They might be distorting your posture. They're uncomfortable. You don't like it. You want to start doing something about it. What I'm going to do in this video is show you how to properly stretch the hip flexors by first educating you on what the basic anatomy is, a quick crash course in anatomy so you understand where all the muscles are located and what to do to stretch them. I'm going to give you a few simple diagnosing tests that you can use at home today to test which hip flexors might be tight and then how to properly stretch them out. So there are 3 hip flexors in total. We're going to go through each one of them in detail, what their functions are, what the tests are, and then how to stretch them out, and you'll be on your way to having a tailored program on how to start creating some length in your own hip flexors, okay? So, number 1 is the psoas, or the iliopsoas if you want to include the iliacus. It originates on your lower back from T12 down to L5. It's coming through the middle of your body to the front of your hip, inserting on the inside of your thigh bone, your femur, okay? Primary function of the psoas is to bring your knee upwards, so to create hip flexion, because it is a hip flexor, bringing the knee up, okay? But additionally, things to note are that if it gets short, if it gets tight, it's going to cause an excessive arch in your lower back, and it's going to cause your foot to turn outward, or your thigh bone femur to externally rotate, okay? So keep that in mind when we're doing the diagnosis, and it'll make more sense once we get into the stretches. Okay, so I got 3 tests you can do here to see if you have tight psoas muscle. Number 1 is you just lay flat on the ground, on your back, make sure your feet are in a neutral position, they're not flopped out to the side, they're not falling into the middle, and you're going to grab one of your knees and pull it up towards your chest. And what you want to do is pay attention to the other leg. Does that knee pop up off the floor? Does the whole leg flop out to the side, or the foot fall out to the side? If either 2 of those things happen, it's a positive test that you have a tight psoas muscle, okay? Test number 2, you can get down into a hip flexor stretch, what I call pirate's pose. Make sure you have something underneath your knee, and from there, what you're going to do is look at your back leg, and if it drifted into the middle, if it's not straight out behind you, if it drifted into the middle, then that's another positive sign that you have a tight psoas, because you're in a stretch position for the hip flexor, but it's externally rotating your thigh bone. If you take your foot from midline and then turn it out to the side and then bend your knee, it's going to be in that position. It's going to be into the middle. So if that happens, it's another positive sign that you have tight psoas. The third thing we're going to do is in that same pose, in that pirate's pose, you're going to assess your lower back. Is it excessively arched? You know, is that psoas shortened, originating from your lower back to your thigh bone? Is it pulling that lower back down, causing your belly to stick out, arch to the lower back? If that's happening, it's another positive sign that you have a tight psoas muscle. Okay, so now what are we going to do to get you in a position where you're properly stretching that muscle if you tested positive on any or all of those tests? So I'm going to recommend the pirate's pose stretch. So you can get down on one knee, and what you need to do is anchor the inside of your foot on the leg behind you if your foot's drifting in, so that the tight muscle can't shorten to bring that foot in. And then we're going to be focusing on this section here, the torso, the spine. What you want to do is take your hips and think about squeezing your butt and sucking your belly in, pulling your belly all the way in, a stomach vacuum. What you're doing there is turning the hips upward, so the hips are turned down. The hips are turned down. You have that excessive arch in your lower back. And what we're going to do is activate the glutes on the back here. The front of your body's over here, if you can, and the core here to turn that hip upwards. You need to suck that core in, squeeze your glutes, and think about turning the hips up towards the sky, the opposite of sticking your butt out, turning the hips down, okay? Once you've locked that in, you got the core tight and the glutes are squeezed, your back foot's anchored, then you can start to sink deeper into the stretch. But a lot of people, once they hit all those cues, they feel the stretch right there and they're good. One more thing you can do to add even further is take the arm of the leg on the same side of the leg that you're stretching. So if you're stretching your right hip, take the right arm, reach up to the sky, and bend over to the side here. That's going to create even more of a lengthening through your psoas. And you can anchor the arm on the other side of your head like this if you want, if your arm gets tired up in the air, okay? So that is the proper way to understand your psoas and then stretch it. Moving on to muscle number 2, the rectus femoris. We're going fast. The one test to diagnose whether you may or may not have a short rectus femoris involves a bed. So you need to lay on the edge of a bed. So you're going to you need to sit right on the edge of a bed, position your butt on the edge. You can lay back, and then you're going to pull one knee up towards your chest, and then check out the other leg. What happens? If your leg is at parallel with the bed, while that knee is flexed out, If it's straight out and then the knee is bent, obviously, then that's a positive sign that you have a tight hip flexor, especially if it's above parallel. If it's below here, it's, yeah, maybe it is, maybe it isn't, okay? The function of the rectus femoris is to flex the hip, because it's a hip flexor, and extend the knee, push the knee outward. So the reason this test on the edge of the bed works is because when you lay, your knee is in a bent position, so we're doing the opposite of what the rectus femoris wants to do. We're bending that knee, we're putting it into flexion, and then we're testing out, you know, does it have that mobility there, or is it really, really tight, okay? So if it's parallel or above, you've got a tight rectus femoris, absolutely. If it's a little bit below, it's maybe, maybe not, okay? The proper way to stretch the rectus femoris is in, again, that same pirate's pose hip flexor stretch, but you need to elevate the back foot. So you need to bring that foot up, because the function of your rectus femoris is to extend the knee. So we're going to do the opposite of extending the knee. We're going to flex the knee, bend the knee. So you got to get that knee bent to put that extra tension on the rectus femoris. That's the proper way, that's the function of it. Proper way to diagnose if it's tight, and the proper way to stretch it. Let's move on to the last muscle. The TFL stands for tensor fasciae lata. Fascia lata. It's located on the top of your hip here, or iliac crest comes here. You can feel the bony part of your hip. That front region there, down to just on the side of your iliotibial band there. It's not a very long muscle, you know, it just sits right there. And the way that we're going to test the function of the tensor fasciae lata is to flex the knee, because it's a hip flexor, and it's going to abduct the leg. It's going to bring your leg out to the side, away from your body, and it's going to internally rotate the femur, turn your thigh bone, or you can take your foot from a neutral position and put it inward. That's a function of the tensor fasciae lata. Okay, so what we're going to do to stretch it is we're going to do the diagnosis and the stretcher all in one. So it's tough to test whether or not you have a tight TFL. So the thing I'm going to get you to do is get into the pirate stretch, again, pirate pose stretch, and down on one knee. And I want you to take the opposite leg, the one that's not getting stretched, and bring it closer to the midline, and then push that hip out of the side that you're stretching. So if you're stretching the right leg, the right knee's on the ground, you're going to push that right hip out to the side. And if you feel tension where that TFL is located, because now you know my TFL, top of the hip there, find the iliac crest, in between there, and maybe a third down or a quarter of the way down the side of my leg, my iliotibial band. If I feel a lot of pulling through that area there, then I know, oh, okay, I'm putting it in a lengthened position. This muscle is tight. This is a good stretch to do for your TFL, okay? So there you go. There's the three main muscles, the psoas, the rectus femoris, and the tensor fasciae lata, where they're located, what their functions are, how to test if they're tight, and then the proper stretches to execute to get some lengthening going. I hope this video was helpful in educating you on the function of your hip flexors and how to start properly stretching them so that you can start to see that relief of the tension and maybe the pain that you want, okay? I'll see you in the next video. 60 seconds of fascia lata. 60 seconds of lata. 60 seconds of lata.